Good afternoon, everybody, and warm welcomes to you all. I'm always searching for better ways to spark engagement and encourage sharing amongst our members, ideally in ways that feel effortless and supported by the best tools technology can offer. I also wanted to connect more deeply with our community, to meet the people behind the pottery and ceramic art, and to learn from the icons and masters who have shaped our field. Out of this desire, our monthly webinar series, Clay Conversations, was born. Since launching the series, we've had the privilege of speaking with an inspiring and diverse range of guests who have generously shared their stories, insights, and hard-earned wisdom, along with plenty of tips, tricks, and trade secrets. We've traveled to the porcelain capital of the world, Jingdezhen, with Rika Herbst. In the next episode, we learned all about entering a juried exhibition, including how to photograph your work and write your artist statement. We've also met the award-winning artists of our annual members exhibition, including a very special visit to the studio of Doreen Hemp, where we were able to witness her latest kiln opening in real time. We also visited the dedicated and passionate team behind the Claremont Ceramics Festival, and recently we learned valuable tips on how to prepare for and present our wares on the market day with Kim Isaacson, who's the curator of the Care at Castle Market. In this final webinar of the year, I am grateful to our colleagues and Ceramics Western Cape alumni representing the Cube and Clay Museum for accepting our invitation to enlighten us about their latest amazing ceramic exhibition called Once Upon a Time. I now hand you over to Ralph Johnson, who will introduce and facilitate today's clay conversation.
Just a bit about myself. I was chairman of Ceramics SA Western Cape from about 2003 to about 2015. During that time, in about 2006, I decided we were going to have an exhibition at Decorex in Cape Town, and I decided that I wanted as many members as possible to be exhibiting with me at Decorex. So I designed and had the big cube built. Now, this cube has got three sections and has 90 smaller cubes within the big cube. And we've branded the cube because it's spelt with capital letters, C-U-B-E, capital letters, and it became the only selling space within the Clay Museum. And I'll tell you more about the Clay Museum. So for the very first time we used the cube, it was set up at the Decorex, at the convention center in Cape Town, and 90 members had mugs in the cube for that Decorex exhibition, and it looked amazing. But after the exhibition, once Decorex had closed down, we had the problem of where to move the cube. Nobody had storage for it, so I asked the Clay Museum if we could set up the cube in their space, and that was where it eventually was situated. And the cube has been there from about 2006, and it was up to the curators of the Clay Museum to keep it filled with objects. The Clay Museum itself is a non-funded organization. The only thing that the Rust and Vrede gets of any finance from the council is for the building. But the actual staff self-fund themselves from the exhibitions. And we thought that the funding from the cube, or any sales from the cube, would then help with the running of both the Clay Museum and Rust and Vrede itself, front galleries. In 2020, during COVID, Henny Meyer and I had long conversations about what was happening in the cube, and we felt that the cube could become a more important exhibition space within the Clay Museum and also help with the funding for the Clay Museum. And we offered our services voluntarily to the curators of the Clay Museum in Rust and Vrede if we could take over the curating of exhibitions in that space. And they agreed to do that. And we were looking for both experienced ceramists and beginners, studios, a wide variety, a wide spectrum of people that would exhibit in the cube. Um, there were two things we looked for. One was that it was well crafted, and the second was a variety and originality. So we had a lot of interesting exhibitions. Each exhibition in the cube installation would last for about 2 months. And sometimes we had solo shows, which was a big ask for because we needed 90 pieces from everybody, from any ceramist that was going to exhibit a solo. We occasionally had studio exhibitions where we would ask the principal of each studio to nominate some of their students or choose students and um, have nine people, nine studios exhibiting in the cube space. The object or the aim of all these exhibitions was to try to attract people to Ristenvrede. It's difficult to get people to come to the exhibitions, as we've seen in the last exhibition. It seems to be it's not as important destination as it is to go to Franschhoek or places like that. So Durbanville seems to not attract as many people as possible. But through our exhibitions, by having multiple exhibitors or having well-known potters, we do actually attract at times quite a large audience. And as I say, all the sales, the profit from the sales goes back into Ristenvrede itself. Coming to the present exhibition, Once Upon a Time, at the end of 2024, I met Amanda, Gabby, and Gina Wilkinson. And knowing they were Michaela's graduates who were working with ceramics, I thought this would be a wonderful group show to have one day. We didn't have a theme at that time, but I kept in my mind that they would present a body of work very different to what most ceramists or potters would make. Then at the beginning of 2025, I suddenly had the idea of fairy tales because I thought of the imagery of fairy tales is quite fantastical and not in the Walt Disney sense, but in whatever somebody could imagine would appear in a fairy tale. Presented it to our cube committee. We have a cube committee who we meet once every couple of months, and they like the idea of fairy tales, and we expanded it to myths and folklore as well. And this I thought was an ideal exhibition for my three Michaelis graduates because I knew they would be inspired by the idea and bring a lot more context to the objects they would be making. And it would be very different to some of the exhibitions we've had before. We decided fairy tales wasn't the best of titles, and one night I had the sudden inspiration to call it Once Upon a Time because this was such a familiar kind of ordinary title. We all know about Once Upon a Time Things Happen, and hence the title of the installation. And I was very happy to see what the three Michaelis graduates presented. And yesterday we had a walkabout where they actually elaborated on 5 items they had made, and then further explanations at the cube itself. In this case, each item has a story to tell. And that was wonderful. So instead of walking by, which most people do is just walk by, maybe stop for a minute or two to look at something, here people actually stood and read what was on some of the objects or asked the artist to explain. Also, at the same time, when I invited the Michaelis graduates, I thought there would be a surge of young people coming to the Clay Museum, students and younger people, because that's the other thing we need to encourage people, and especially young people to start collecting ceramics. So that's another thing we do is we try and keep the prices reasonable and affordable. And I hope that has happened over the years. That's in a nutshell about our exhibition. There's one more week left to see the exhibition. It ends on Tuesday, I think the 9th of December. So you've got a whole week left to go and see it. Just one more thing. The theme, Once Upon a Time, continues in the front galleries, which were those exhibitions were curated by the Rust and Frieda staff, not by the Cube Committee. One final thing, if you ever want to exhibit in the Cube, you can contact us and we will invite you for a meeting and then explain what we expect from exhibitors. Thank you, Rosh.
I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for everyone who is participating in this Zoom meeting. And also, I would like to thank Rolf again for this wonderful opportunity. When he came to me with this idea about Once Upon a Time and everything, I was very excited because I haven't had so much experience exhibiting my work. And it was an overall such a lovely, positive experience. I can highly recommend. Especially, yes, maybe we didn't have the best turnout or whatever, but it was quality engagement who was there. And one does use the opportunity to grow in your own work, which has happened for me and I know for Amanda as well. And that kind of experience is, makes worth a million the rands you could have made. It doesn't matter about that. So just that aside. So I have, is my thing, can you see that little profile thing? Is it also in the front of my slideshow? Do you see like a Gabrielle Albert? Mine's like in the front of my screen, or is it just my presentation that you see?
I see your presentation, so it's an oval image of you, and then Gabby Alberts is a ceramic artist.
Okay, that's fantastic. So yes, I love drawing. That is kind of my first love. And then ceramics came through in like even first year at Michaelis under Denise Reich, who made these beautiful giant head sculptures out of terracotta and stuff. And she made all the students do that at Michaelis as well. And you can do anything with clay, as those who work with clay know. And that's almost the magic about that. So after Michaelis, where I made more like that kind of miniature, the little bedroom and the little campsite and the little like, I created a world of, a miniature world, and it was all these dioramas of miniature crime scenes, and you would go inside and everything was made out of ceramic. And then I fired it to the vitrified stage of 1,200. And then I painted it with oils because I needed so much color variation and I wanted to have full control, and the kind of unexpected nature of it wasn't applicable to then. But since then, after Michaelis, I got into the crockery and just making functional pieces. I taught myself on the wheel, and I always worked with porcelain because for me it is painting on that surface, and they are the canvases for my paintings, these vessels, and the shape totally dictates what I paint in the final designs of what I do. So what was so wonderful about this exhibition for me personally is that it gave me an opportunity to marry my sculpture from my Michaelis days with my crockery now, and see how I can make them speak of my language kind of thing. And I think that is coming across. And that's what I mean with the journey that this is taking me on of my ceramic life. So I first started, went to the library, got a lot of books about myths and legends because we decided to go more for folk tales. And then, you're trying to go local as well, and you're trying to make it true to what you do. So I was always fascinated with pirates. I think a lot of children are. I just haven't really quite outgrown it. So the Flying Dutchman was definitely one of the tales I wanted to tell. And I thought to invoke a kind of sense of collectability by making these little plates that are little heirlooms or things of its bygone era, even if it is a myth. And then with that, I created the little dice that are separate of the thing. And the story, I don't know if you guys know the story of the Flying Dutchman, but it is this Captain van der Decken, who was a Dutch sailor, and he bet with dice against the devil because he wanted to go back and forward on the stormy Cape. And he lost against the devil, and so he was like cursed to sail around the coast and petrify other sailors. And even into the 40s, there was reports of them seeing this mysterious ship just off or falls by. So the legend actually goes quite far, you know, and this was an opportunity to make it even stay a little bit longer with us, which we enjoyed doing. And then another story that was also very attractive for me was the Bushman folklore. There were so many of them, and I really highly recommend, if you guys are feeling ever like depleted or uninspired, to just actually go and explore some Bushman folk tales. You'll be amused and amazed about how rich they are and stuff. I did talk about it at the walkabout, but it is a strange tale of the praying mantis who has his son, and he sent him to the baboons that he got angry. He wanted to get sticks so that he can make a bow and arrow and, you know, chase the baboons away. The baboons didn't like the story, so they attacked the son, and in their attack, the son's eyes got knocked out, and then the baboons were playing with the eyes of the child. In the meantime, the praying mantis is falling asleep, and he has a dream that his son is killed by the baboons, and then he wakes up and he goes and he sees them there, dust, they're kicking up the dust in the storm, and they're all like, my ball, my companion, whose ball is it? And he looked at the ball, and then he noticed it was an eye, and then he saw his dead son, and he took the eye to the stream, and then the child's spirit was released into the river. So these are the kind of tales that was told, and I'm trying to evoke with my little ceramics here. And that is just a little drawing to give life the character, because I always have to start with a little drawing. Otherwise, it's like just a figment of your imagination. It helps to clarify things, and just kind of how the language that was used in the book. And I have at the end a list of all the books that I use to read of the narratives for the different narratives in the folk tales. And then another one is a Nancy spider. This is a motif, a spider bolt that I already have in my crockery. So it's so nice to kind of reintroduce them by telling the story and the multiplicity that it has with that. And I just introduce him as the spider, and that his kind of motto in life is better to be cunning than to be strong. And then the story continues with Niame, the sky god. So Anansi the spider went to Niame, the sky god, once because he wanted a pot of wisdom. And Niame said to him, you've got to show me what you're worth. I've had problems with the hornet, the leopard, and the python. You must catch them for me. Off went Anansi the spider. And with music, he tricked all the hornets to follow him into the calabash. And inside is the little spider, which the hornets are following. And on the plate, this python was lying next to his staff, trying to see that he was longer. And Nancy tricked him, and he tied him with the silk of his little spider, with the leopard. He dug a hole in the earth, and he covered it with banana leaves, and the leopard fell into the pit. So then he got the pot of wisdom, and he shared the wisdom with the people who improved their farming skills. Another story that I told was about Rudyard Kipling's How the Leopard Got Its Spots, a little cup that I painted, and there's a little details. All these vessels, sculptures are made out of porcelain as well, and I've hollowed them out. They're one of a kind. I don't have to make a mold from them, and I make my little leaves and mushrooms and stuff, and the little emblem saying what the title is, and that is just the cup going around showing the story of the Ethiopian painting the spots on the leopard. That's how it happened. And this is another story. It is actually quite true, where Nonkowize went to the ancestors asking for the white man to get rid of the white man. They didn't want them there. And then the ancestors, if you kill all the livestock, we will get rid of the white man. And then they did that, and it didn't happen for them. So it was a feminine story. And people say it is true, but some say it's a myth. So this is another story. The hare and tortoise. It is interesting how diverse the story is and different cultures, going through to Africa as well. There was Table Mountain again, going local with the story of Van Hunk with the devil, and how they made this kind of the tablecloth. If it goes over, the rumor that that they outsmoked the devil. And there's just a detail of it. And there's of the little sculptures. And it's all painted with underglaze, and there's luster finishes as well. I also went to YouTube and watched animation, and I found this amazing one, the old crocodile, and painted a little cup to reflect that. Then Mummy Wata is another character that I really love, and try to make a shrine dedicated to her. And just like water, Mummy Wata gives life, she takes life. And people bring offerings, asking for good wealth and health. The snake is also a sign of fertility, and the peaches. And those are the elements that I added to the little sculpture. And then from this, I was interested in how children, illustration books and stuff for crocodiles. And I wanted to implement that in my story as well. This is another one where a mom, she didn't want her kids to eat oats, and then they did eat oats, and she punished her to death, and then she hid the child in the river, and the crocodile took her, and then he revived the child, and the child went back to the parents. Very strange stories, and they're not conventional. That's part of the charm for me. We can unpack that. And this is another lovely one of a Domba dance, all the little dances going around. It is a fertility dance from Venda, and there I have a YouTube clip. I would recommend seeing how beautiful it is. It's so compelling how they move, and I thought I kind of captured that in my little plate there as well. And then finally, I took the Zulu approach on this story. The Bushmen have it, and Xhosa have it. Lots of different cultures had it, or still probably some have still. And it's where how death came to man. First, the moon, and a different god said to the chameleon, death won't come to man. You will revive just like the moon revives after 28 days. But the chameleon was so slow in moving. And then the moon changes its mind and said, actually, you will die, and sent the lizard. And so now that's why we have death in our society. And then that was just the final one of the ancestors that I wanted to invoke. These are the ones that was telling us the little story. So I just made this almost like an archaeological find of one of our ancestors who has told us these lovely stories. And then that is my list of books and resources. And that is the end. Thank you very much for your time.
That was absolutely wonderful, Gabby. Just seeing all of those different images together and those stories. That was spectacular. Thank you so much.
I appreciate
I don't know,
Thank you.
Rolf, do you want to give... Oh, it's a pleasure. Rolf, do you want to give a little explanation on Gina's work? Unfortunately, Gina's unwell today, so she couldn't join.
I don't think we have any images of Gina, so I think you must just go ahead with your own, Amanda. But I also want to say to Gabby, that was a brilliant explanation. Loved it, and I'm so pleased this is being recorded that we can go back to it whenever. Thank you, Gabby.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Rolf.
Yeah?
Okay, cool. So I will continue with my presentation. I just need to be able to share my screen. So you should be seeing my website. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So basically, as I said before, my name is Amanda Rubitska. I know often people call me Rybika or Rybiki. That's okay because it's spelled very differently. But it is Polish and it means little fish. So as Gabby spoke about past work, I was a graduate of the Michaelis School of Fine Arts. And when I was in Michaelis, I actually did a lot of different sort of work. My graduation, um, my graduation piece was actually a whole bunch of different felted pieces. There we go. Different felted pieces made by trauma survivors. And the felted pieces were all made from shedded dog fur. So dog fur that had been like shed from a dog. Um, you can see there's many different pieces that were made. And what I did as well is I felted my own dog fur dress. So I can open this image. So this was the dress that I made, and I also made a carpet. I did not make the dog. The dog just came to visit the exhibition. So as you can see, my work is quite different to what I do now, but also not too different. So the exhibition name was Grin and Bear It. What I continued to do was work with trauma survivors and held an exhibition called Held, along with the Creative Change Laboratory. And we cast trauma survivors' hands and joined them all together into an installation where everyone basically is held together. You can see more about all of these things on my website. And then Fritzi was born. So during my Michaelis time, I did that sort of work. And so it was a lot of community-based work. And once I finished, once I graduated, I worked at Redham teaching children how to work with ceramics. It was such a valuable experience because that was the first time I actually learned how to pack a kiln, how to glaze, what to do, what absolutely not to do. It was a fantastic experience. And because I was working with children, we made a whole bunch of just really fun things. And I'd been working with such hectic, topics and engaging with such hectic, environments before that it was actually incredibly nice to just sit and make a little house. I'm looking around me to see if I have any of the little things. No, I do, but I'm not going to take them out. So it was just absolutely wonderful. And learning this new medium really changed something in me. I thought that clay was so incredibly healing and wonderful. So in my time at Michaelis, I think the entirety of my clay work was, as Gabby said, I made a large clay head of someone in my class. I was very lucky. They were very tired, so they fell asleep while they were supposed to be sculpting me. So I got to get their likeness. And then in my second year, I made 50 slip cast ceramic tampons, which is probably why I, in my fourth year, dealt with a lot of cast making, because I got really into the idea of multiples, which is why with my Fritzy series, I became so attached to it because of this idea of a story and multiples that will tell a story. So these are some of my pieces of Fritzy. And the reason why I need to talk about Fritzy is because it ties in with the exhibition. So if you look at the form of Fritzy, that's Fritzy Gets Mooned. You can see it's almost like blocks put together, almost like Lego, which I really, really enjoy. It's like sitting there with a bunch of different parts you make and you put it together. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my slides and let me do that. Okay, so again, Amanda Rubitska. At the moment, I am an educator at the Peter Clark Arts Center. I also help with outreach management at Montebello Design Center. I teach creative arts at the Red Cross Children's Hospital, and I run my own ceramic teaching studio where I have students that age from, used to have younger ones, but they tend to grow up a bit. My youngest learner is 9 and my oldest one is 90. So we have a good array of ages. So, once upon a time, the purpose behind Once Upon a Time is, I have to move your head so I can actually see what the purpose is. The purpose behind my work was to take the stories my father used to read me and recreate the characters in a clay format using a pre-existing visual style that I've been working on for years. So that would have been, as you can see, I've always been obsessed with animals and drawing, and I lived in a fairy world of my own imagination. So this is a picture of little Amanda. She probably changed her outfit 5 times a day to become different personalities and people. You can see the big pile of drawings in the top left corner. So I would sit at that computer, play silly little educational games. I would have my pencils and my drawing stuff. I'd draw a picture, throw it in the top left-hand corner, carry on playing a game, change my stuffed animal probably like a million times while I was sitting there, because obviously they all had feelings and I couldn't just have one. Like they all needed to have a little bit of time. So I've always been incredibly interested in stories and fairy tales and just imagination. Just having a little break from this kind of reality that we've created. So the creative process. So as I kept talking about, my first ceramic love was Fritzi. So Fritzi's always been a sort of character that I've drawn. It's always been kind of like looks like a very angry, fierce creature, but actually gets up to a lot of mischief. And this is some of my process images of when I was thinking of Once Upon a Time, thinking of the storybooks my dad used to read me, thinking of the different trickster characters that are in so many stories from all around the world. So, whoops. So as you can see, there's these little drawings. Some of them are a bit vulgar, but I'm trying to turn the form of Fritzi, which is a very block-like form, into these different trickster characters. But then I spoke to Rolf, and Rolf was like, you know what? Why don't you experiment and change it up a bit? So as soon as Rolf said that to me, I took the form of Fritzi, so Fritzi the dog who gets into all sorts of different mischief, and I put Fritzi in the doghouse. I'm like, I'm sorry, my guy, you need to step back. We have some other animals to make. So then I started evolving the form. So this was the first sort of evolution. So shame, the first one, you can see I was struggling to get over that first form, and he just got pointy ears. But then I was thinking of other animal shapes like a zebra. Then the form carried on evolving, and I made a raven. If you can see, the actual form of all of these sculptures are pretty much the same. It's all a sort of pyramid shape, like a block pyramid shape, but then adding different sort of appendages. So this story is basically, there is a spider called Anansi, and he was very, very clever. So what he did was he would go to the crow and he would say, you know, I'm very, very, very cold. Please, can I have some coal? I'm so cold. And then, of course, the crow was quite nice. I was like, oh, I'm a bit suspicious, but okay, let's do this. And when Crow went to go get the coal, then the spider went and jumped and stole some figs. So then this carried on going, carried on going, carried on going until the spider had a huge pile of figs and a huge pile of coal. While I carried on experimenting with form, I also started experimenting with playing with different stories together. So the story to the left of Baboon is basically Baboon is super sneaky and super greedy. So what Baboon has done is Baboon has stolen the pot of food and has eaten everything. Baboon is just greedy and naughty. So this is why you have this empty bowl. But then on the right, I have Baboon gets a skrik, because now what? All the food is gone. The other animals are going to come. The other animals are going to notice. What is he going to do now? So if you can see the direction of the eyes that I have, I always use the eyes to try and show a different sort of emotion. But as you can see, the forms are evolving. Then I get to a personal story of mine. So in this story, I will actually read it off my phone while you look at those pictures. So this story is a personal one. I actually wrote it out in the same way that I would have stories read out to me as a child. So this is my story, and you can believe it or you could not believe it. Once there was a small girl called Amanda. She loved fish fingers more than she loved most of her cousins. I'm sorry, cousins, I do actually really, really love you. But when I was 5 and I got 1 fish finger and you got 3, I did hold a little bit of beef, but the beef is gone. It's okay. Anyway, her family went on a holiday to Etosha and she met the most exquisite animals. Through her car window, she named them all like she was running for mayor of the Etosha landscape. The giraffes got elegant names. The rhinos got dramatic names, and the elephants got names that sounded like old professors with opinions about politics. Then it was dinner time, the kids' table outside. The sun was setting, the dust was settling, and the uncles were laughing in a way that adults laugh when they've had just 1 beer. Amanda only got 1 fish finger. 1. Like some kind of ancient punishment for past lives. She ate everything else first, because she was saving the best for last. That fish finger was destiny. She stood up, fish finger in hand, walking towards the house, and then from the shadows, a dark furry blur shot forward like a furry missile of chaos. The fish finger was gone. Amanda screamed, sprinting inside with eyes as wide as an owl, because she knew what the owl knew. The thief was Jackal, sneaky, hungry, shameless Jackal, who probably had rabies. That's what the adults told her anyway. Don't go outside. The jackals have rabies. They said this calmly, though, almost like it was normal information. Amanda mourned her fish fingers for years, and she had resentment in her tiny heart. She gave speeches to imaginary audiences, swearing vengeance. But when she got older, she realized 2 things. Jackal has a powerful nose and the moral compass of a toddler at a birthday party, and she was gluten intolerant. So she forgave him, because in the end, Jackal may have had or may have not had rabies, but the fish finger would have had the revenge in the form of stomach cramps. And honestly, that's justice. Okay, so that's just a little bit of the story that I've just read, so you don't need to know more of that. But what I have next is I'm going to do a quick scroll through of the catalog. We'll make this available in the comments. So these are the different pieces that are displayed in the cube that Rolf was talking about. As I go through, I'll read their names. Zebra gets their stripes. Jackal steals a fish finger. Lion is king. Giraffe gets their spots. Caracal feels beautiful. Jackal stole my fish finger again. You can see I have a bit of a vendetta. Then I did these vases, which I recreated a sort of way that I used to draw as a child, and I recreated that drawing format onto vases. Little wheel thrown, little wheel thrown vases using recycled clay. I also noticed like the way that I used to draw bugs and the way that children draw bugs nowadays without being taught. It's quite similar. So you can see just little circles and little lines. And small little mark makings like that can represent something that's recognizable, which I find quite interesting. Then you have these two enemies. Then you have baboon gets greedy and hippo gets hungry. Dusty loses their tail and baboon gets a skrick. It's quite funny that they're next to each other because there's another story where Dusty actually has a fight with baboon and baboon steals Dusty's tail. And that's why the baboon, I actually have a baboon here. I don't know why he's here. That's why the baboon has such a long tail because he stole a bit of Dusty's tail. There's actually many stories about Dusty loses their tail, but that's one of them. Then I have Owl Nose, the all-knowledgeable owl. The dog gets painted, as we know, painted dogs and wild dogs. Lunar Renewal is an interesting one where I slip cast clivia seeds. And there's a story where in order to make your clivia seeds grow, you have to actually put them under the full moon so that they can soak in that moonlight, and it ensures them that they'll grow. Oya's hand, that's actually cast from a hand of one of the children that I teach. So she's very excited for it not to be sold so she can have it. Then obviously the hare and the tortoise. This hare is flipping off the tortoise because obviously the tortoise always wins the race. Then I have Crocodile Eats the Sun. So this is a story where the crocodile eats the sun at the end of every day, and that's how the sun goes down. So he eats the sun and pulls it under the water. Then I have The Rock That Listens is actually he said that I couldn't go gossip around corners because the rock always listens. Then I have these pieces. They are all slip cast bones that my dog has dug up. So I slip cast them in white stoneware, and then I raku-fired them. A funny story, whenever I see these types of bones, the first time I went into the Michaelis ceramics room, I actually thought that someone had done a project where they cast a bunch of dog bones, and those were kiln props. But I kept on going on to Delise, who was teaching us to clay heads. I could not believe that someone had cast so many dog bones, and I was so amazed, and they're different sizes, and where did they find all these bones? And then it turned out that they were kiln props later in life when I figured that out. So I love playing with the form of the bone, the dog bone, which isn't actually from a dog. And then the last bit in my last sculpture in the Once Upon a Time exhibition is Fritzy Gets Mooned, which is one of my silly favorites. It is Fritzy Gets Mooned because the little Fritzy on the big Fritzy is actually just showing his butthole, just like mooning him. I don't know if the terminology for getting mooned is very popular nowadays, but as a kid, it was quite hilarious. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, Amanda. Thank you so much.
Okay, let me stop sharing.
What happens now?
Now we're going to have open conversation so people can ask all of us some questions about our work.
But just before, can I just say that it's having both you and Gabby's explanations has shown that the theme was an amazing theme, that you both of you went to such lengths to understand the actual theme and actually present such an amazing installation. And I'd love people to come along now in their throngs to see what both of you and as well as Gina have presented. So thank you both.
It's a pleasure. It really allowed me to grow my style and push myself. I mean, 30 sculptures, well, technically it was 33. But yeah, it was a big push and a lot of learning and getting to know the team and everyone. It was very,
Mm.
very special.
Yes, and we mustn't forget about Philip as well and his amazing stuff about Atlantis.
Yes, maybe should I share again and then just
You
show
the
through his work?
catalog, yeah,
Yeah, I can do
as
that.
well. And he's also a
Just
Michaelis graduate.
Yes, Philip Barrett is a Michaelis graduate, and he is in Zimbabwe at the moment, looking after his ailing mother. That's why he's not here today. So let's have a look at his work. And it's based on Atlantis, the city under the sea.
There he is.
That's Philip.
Okay, so Philip. I'll slowly go through his images.
And
But
what
the
I
way
also
that,
love about his, it's like almost miniature stages, because obviously they're miniature, they can even be enlarged. They're so detailed and so well done, but they look like they can be used for staged opera stage productions or something like that, just in miniature form.
absolutely. And the perspective of the architecture is
Mm,
absolutely, he's completely done some sort of optical illusion, which I was incredibly impressed by.
yeah. And like I said, my mom, she was obviously at the exhibition and she even
Does make
asked
you
if it
feel
was
like you
3D
are,
printed. They looked so real to her. And I was like, no, he made
yeah,
them by hand. So very nice as well. Mm,
yeah. So that was Philip's work. Okay,
cool.
I'll stop sharing. Well, actually, I'm gonna do the quick go through
Rolf,
again
you should
because I
put your
do,
voice on.
yeah, I do want to show Gina's work.
There we go.
Okay, just because they're not here today, they were going to be here, but
Mm.
let's show them. Okay, so this is Gina Wilkinson, and she made several slip cast oranges or stone fruit. So together, um, so you can see them all together here, but she arranged them in such a beautiful way. You can see this image that all the different pieces together create a sort of tree.
An orange tree.
An orange tree, yes. Based off a story she talks about Oranje.
Correct. So her mastery of coloring clay so that it looks like real oranges and these little leaf bowls, and then the trunk of the tree made from colored clay, Nerikomi style.
And these are her extra pieces, which are also on display, which are based off her trademark, creating ceramics out of, not out of sweets, creating sweets out of ceramics. Okay.
Creating, yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. So now you've seen the other artists that are exhibiting with us who we would have loved for them to come and speak about their own work, but we're glad that we could just show you some of the images. So if you would like, you can ask us some questions. Any four of us, you can ask Rush some questions as well if you want. And we'll be open to sharing.
You may also type any questions in the chat if you'd like as well.
Yes,
Yes.
if you don't want to
But I've
turn
got
your
a
mic.
question because of the
Yes.
theme of this exhibition, particularly in the cube. Are you attracting younger people to ceramics and to coming to a museum to look at stuff?
So
Um,
that is, you can speak first, Rolf.
no, you give me your impressions.
Oh, so that is one of the first things we started talking about because myself being an educator for at Peter Clark, it's mainly children and teenagers. We thought that these stories where it's from oral history and they're stories that have been told for a very, very long time. We don't want these stories to get lost. They've been retold many, many, many different times by different people, and they've been altered through time, but we want to make sure that the youth of today know about these stories, especially with things like technology and the rise in AI and just the lack of reading books, which is happening, or parents reading books to their children. We want the youth to know these stories.
Yeah, I
Rosh?
agree.
Sorry,
Yeah, no, I also agree with Amanda. It was definitely something that it's also amazing to think that in 2025 we do still know these stories. They actually have been standing the test of time despite all kinds of obstacles in their way and maybe their lack of appeal and stuff. And I do like the idea of, you know, Disney have so overtaken in our generation as well, the fairy tales kind of aspect. And the folk tales have like gone a little bit under the radar in that way, which is a little blessing actually. And that we can be part of telling that story has definitely been for me as well personally a huge impact. Yeah.
If I can come in here to talk about Rosh, about people coming to the exhibitions, is a big problem, as I've said at the beginning. It's how to attract people to go to this wonderful place called the Clay Museum, which is like this hidden gem that so few people know about. And this is a marketing problem that we haven't solved. It should have been inundated by young people. This would be ideal. There is a budget restraint, a constant budget restraint at the Clay Museum because there's no funding. Otherwise, we could have perhaps got busloads of children, school children, coming to the Clay Museum, organizing events there's a beautiful garden around the Clay Museum. We could have had storytelling. We thought about that, getting people to tell the stories. People from the various parts of South Africa telling the stories, because the important thing here is that all of the Gabby, Amanda, Gina, and Philip all looked to Africa for the stories. It was actually continental, national, and local stories, which I thought was fabulous, and I learned a lot about our folklore, more than I'd known before. And so that I'm hoping it won't get lost. And I spoke to the team, and I hope next year we can do some outreach exhibitions with what they've already done and continue this idea of teaching, especially not teaching, but enlightening people about our folklore and some of the myths that are fascinating. So it's not the end. I think this is the beginning of something special.
Yeah, thanks, Ralph. So this problem of attendance is not unique to you. It's something that we need to talk about as a ceramics and arts community in Cape Town. I mean, we've tried to make this forum here so easy for people to join. They just have to connect on Zoom via their phones or their laptops from the comfort of their lounge or whatever. And still, too, we find, we could have a lot more people on these calls. It's just the same people that are joining every time.
Right. Okay. So something we need to discuss this. Yes, let's see how we can get together and change that, if it's possible, to change in small increments.
Yeah. Create a culture that loves ceramics and stuff. And I guess that's what's so nice about this exhibition. It's through the little stories that we can reach the young ones. We, reach them young to get in love with ceramics, and maybe that is how it carries on. But I also feel like just to be a little bit easy on ourselves, this is such a busy time of the year, and there are so many events that one is constantly competing with. People are finishing off the end of year projects and stuff, and those all are contributing factors which made them maybe not come so much to the exhibition space or whatnot.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions? And you must unmute, Anne.
Okay. I have
Anne? Okay.
Oh, sorry, Anne. Anne, you can ask a question. We'll go through the questions that are in the chat towards the end.
I think Anne is battling to unmute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can't hear you. Do you want to type
you
your
have
question?
what I have with video. You have with audio.
If you tap
So
on your picture, Anne, it should say mute or unmute.
it doesn't
Oh,
look like she is muted, but let me read out the questions in the chat so long. One of them is asking if Jackal stole my fish fingers still available. And I said yes, but don't steal it. And Fern says I would very much like to purchase it. So that's nice. Thank you, Fern.
it's nice.
Yes. Then we have a message from Dominique saying, put an open call out for new and emerging artists. So I think that is from what we're talking about at an advertising point of view, how to get more new faces and new people to come to the gallery. So not like the same artists and the same artist friends and the same people. I think that's what she means with that. And then Mel says, brilliant excursion opportunity for young artists. Love the ideas around adding storytelling elements to the exhibition. Connecting young South Africans with art and new techniques is a great need, and love that it is an issue that you would like to pursue. Thank you, Mel. Yeah, it is something, and we want the exhibition to continue past the cube to try and do outreach with these stories and creating availability of clay with younger children. But this is something that we're going to plan for next year and talk about. Then Dominique says, or advertise with schools, inviting high school students to enter their work, holding open workshops or short courses or pop-up shows, stalls at markets. So we have been doing that with workshops, and potters do short courses, and we do have pop-up shows happening. But
Can
I think,
can I just
sorry, Ross,
ask Mel?
continue.
Because there is an outreach program that Dristan Vrede is trying to establish. So if Mel could send me an email, or Rosh, anybody or any of us on the panel, we can get back to her on that, because this is something that we hope to create more and make it more available.
Yeah, because the point is not to gatekeep this stuff, it's to try and share it with the world. And not just the same communities again and again.
Right.
So we
Exactly.
are at the top of the hour. I'm going to do the 20-second rule if there are any further questions. Okay. Thank you once again for everyone that participated today, either as presenters or as participants in attending. We really appreciate your support for Clay Conversations. As I said, this is the last one for this year, but we'll be back again next year.